Good evening, friends. Today I've been given the topic to discuss, that is right of the accused. Like I discussed earlier, my previous two lectures were about investigation, that is a criminal complaint and FIR, and the second lecture was charge sheet, in which we had intricately seen what an FIR is, what is a criminal complaint, when an FIR can be lodged, when a criminal complaint can be lodged, what is a charge sheet, and what are the minute intricacies in the charge sheet involved. Now today the most important part is what are the rights of accused. Everyone till now is always concerned about the right of complainant, that injustice has been done to a complainant. Complainer need lot of justice. Now let us see what are the rights of accused. But before going to that, we have to see what is the definition of the word accused. The definition of the word accused is not defined in any code or any law book, but as simple as it can be made, we can say that an accused is a person who has committed an overt act. Overt means a wrong act which is not permitted by law. Not permitted by law means that the law of the land, that is a law of a country, a state, of a city, permits an activity. If that an activity is permitted, then it is lawful, and if it is not permitted, then it is an unlawful. Any person who commits an unlawful activity is known as accused. For example, what is wrong? What is wrong is like something belonging to me is taken by any one of you without my permission, then that is wrong and that is not permitted by law. Simple examples are needed because apart from law students and lawyers, there are many other general people here. So I'm giving simple examples. That is why. Example, there is a coat which belongs to me and which is taken by one person. And after 2 days, I see that coat is worn by that person. When I ask that person says, I took it because I wanted it. This kind of act is an overt act. There are many other examples like hitting someone, killing someone, sexually assaulting, taking some taking someone from their lawful custody, kidnapping, and many others so on. So an person who commits an overt act is known as accused. Now, why rights of accused are necessary? The rights of accused are necessary because Blackstone has rightly said that it is better to live thousands unpunished than rather convict one person who is innocent. Now, innocent until proven guilty is a concept which is followed by all the countries. Rights of accused are defined in various different countries, and different countries have their own perception. Today, we will be dealing with rights of accused in our country, because we are mainly related to rights of accused with our country. For this, we will have to precisely go through Article 20, which because of which other articles and other sections are implied. Let us now see what are the rights of accused. The Supreme Court has time and again through various judgments has said that the rights of accused are necessary. For example, the rights with regards to arrest, deprivation of life and liberty, and independent rights. In Joginder Kumar versus State of UP, the Honorable Supreme Court has held that merely because the police officer has powers, he cannot arrest a person on his own. There should be lawful reasons given for the arrest of the person. Similarly, in Prem Shankar Shukla versus Delhi Administration, note down the citation, 1980 SCC 526. The Supreme Court firstly has held that it is not right to handcuff a person, because handcuff violates personal liberty and it hampers Article 14, 19, and 21. Only certain cases are permitted where a person can be handcuffed. I'm reading out those examples which the Supreme Court has given in Prem Shankar Shukla versus Delhi Administration. That says that when a person is a previous convict. Secondly, if he's a desperate character means he's violent or he could cause harm to any person. Thirdly, if he is likely to commit suicide or inflict any injuries on himself. And fourthly, if he is likely to escape. These are the only four exceptions where a person that is an accused can be handcuffed, because the concept that innocent until proven guilty still prevails in India. As we all know, D.K. Basu was a state of Bengal, is the pioneer which has given us a plethora of rights of accused. This judgment has clearly given us a plethora of rights of accused. Firstly, that says that no third degree can be used on an accused person. No third degree can be used on accused person by police. Secondly, the interrogation officer has to give all his details in the register available in the police station and inform that he is interrogating a particular accused. Secondly, at the time of arrest memo has to be given to one of the relative or a close by friend of the accused. The arrest memo has to be countersigned by the accused. Accused should know the reason why he is detained, and secondly, why he's been arrested. Now, the question which many people ask is, what happens if an accused is arrested out of state? If an accused is arrested out of state, then it is the duty and not prerogative of the police officer to inform the relative as well as the district legal committee of that particular city within 8 to 12 hours in writing that so and so person has been arrested and has been kept in my custody. Nowadays, police officers also email the arrest memo or WhatsApp, or they can telephonically inform. But needs to be avoided as far as possible, because many a times it is seen that the same has been denied. At the time of particular arrest, it is seen that there are many belongings which are found on the body of the accused which are not related in a crime at that particular step. At that time, it is the duty of the police officer to take all the belongings of the accused and hand over to the nearest relative or whoever is available in the police station to whom he has handed over the arrest memo. The arrest memo is very essential because it can be useful in case of default bail. Default bail is something which we have already dealt earlier. Secondly, DK Basu has also stated that it is the right of the accused to get all the documents, and all the documents relating to his arrest have necessarily been supposed to be sent to the magistrate within 24 hours of his arrest, and the accused has to be produced before the district magistrate or the concerned magistrate within 24 hours of his arrest, and the police officer on producing him before the court has to take his remand. Remand is an application which the police officer gives to the magistrate and reads out why he needs the custody for interrogation of the accused. The maximum remand that a magistrate can give is up to 14 days. The magistrate, while giving remand, has to judiciously apply his mind, think what has gone through in the investigation and what is needed, and then only grant remand. Remand cannot be granted merely because it is 14 days. If the magistrate feels that the investigation is completed within 3 days, then he can send the accused to judicial custody. Once the accused is in judicial custody, he can apply for his bail. Now, how he can apply for his bail is what I have already dealt earlier. So right now, I am not refreshing the same because today we are dealing with the rights of the accused. Now, secondly, every district has to have a control room, and a police officer has to immediately inform the control room that he has arrested a particular accused and these other details. DK Basu clearly states that if the above mentioned things are not followed, then the officers are liable for contempt. Article 39A(1) of the Constitution of India states that accused should be given free legal aid. That is, for example, if an accused who's in custody and is not able to afford a legal counsel, because a legal counsel is a right of the accused, then he should be given free legal aid by the district lawyers association, that is the legal aid committee. The Supreme Court in Ajmal Kasab's case had asked the magistrate specifically whether any injury were inflicted on the accused, and if at all he needed legal aid. Thus legal aid is a right of the accused. Now let us see what Article 20 says. Article 21 says that protection from ex post facto law. In simple words, I would like to say that an accused can be punished only if the crime is a crime today and it is not a crime after 2 years. Let me give you an example. you are caught cheating in an examination. You are caught cheating in an examination today. The university bars you from the entire semester. This is wrong, and this is ultra vires Article 21, because it is clearly stated that your act should be an over act as on today. I will give you an example. In Kedarnath versus West Bengal, an offense was committed in the year 1947. When an offense was committed in the year 1947, at that time, that particular offense was punishable with penal action as well as punishment. By the time the trial went on, it became up to year 1949. In the year 1949, there was an amendment which came that there would be only fine, and that to double the amount. The magistrate convicted Kedarnath on the basis of double fine. Kedarnath appealed in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court held that at the time of a commission of a crime, the punishment was either punishment or it was a penal action. Hence, the magistrate according double penalty, that is double fine to Kedarnath was ultra vires, and hence the conviction was strike ahead. Let us now move to our second example of 22. If at all anyone is having any questions, please drop them in the chat box. We will be answering them at the end of the lecture. Now we will proceed to Article 22. Let me read what Article 22 states, and then we will see what happens. Article 22 states that double jeopardy. There is a legal maxim that is nemo debit vis vexera. It means that no person can be punished two times for the same offense. In Thomas Das versus State of Punjab, the Supreme Court has categorically stated that there are certain requirements to take protection under Article 22. Firstly, the person should be an accused. Secondly, there should be an ongoing prosecution, and thirdly, the result of the prosecution should be an punishment. For example, let me tell you, there is a case of kidnapping, and a person is accused in that, and the person is being trying for that. That person cannot be on a second ground tried for kidnapping, but on a second ground, he can be tried for conspiracy of kidnapping. Conspiracy of kidnapping is entirely different for what is kidnapping. Let us see an example of a famous case, that is Maqbul Hussain versus State of Bombay. In Maqbul Hussain versus State of Bombay, one person was found to smuggle lot of gold into the territory of Bombay without having any valid permission. As per the Sea Customs Authority Act, the gold was seized and a prosecution was initiated against him under Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. Maqbul Hussain approached the Honorable Supreme Court stating that this act of the prosecuting agency is ultra vires, and his fundamental right under Article 2 has been defeated. The Supreme Court in this particular case has held that prosecution should be by a judicial authority, and Sea Customs Authority is a quasi-judicial authority, and hence prosecution of Maqbul Hussain as per the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act was valid, and hence his claim was dismissed. Now let's see what is Article 23. Article 23 deals with protection against self-incrimination. In simple words, it means that no person can be compelled to give evidence against himself. I'm repeating, no person can be compelled to give evidence against himself. No man can be bound to make himself accused. Ingredients that charge of an offense. Second, there should be a demand for you. The ingredients that are ultra vires of Article 23 are that you should be charged of an offense. Secondly, there should be a written demand from the prosecuting agency or police officer to give you a witness, and thirdly, that could be used against you. So there are three ingredients of Article 23. First is there should be a charge of offense against you. Secondly, there should be a written demand for you to come as a witness, and thirdly, that would be utilized against you. In Nandini Satapathy versus PL Dani, I'm repeating, in Nandini Satapathy versus PL Dani, there were corruption charges against a person, and he was called to police station and he was asked to answer a list of questions. On his denial to answer the list of questions, the police authorities slammed prosecution on him against 179 of the CRPC, which means that as per section 179 of CRPC, it is essential to answer the questions put by a public servant. You cannot deny to answer questions put by public servants. Nandini Satapathy approached the Honorable Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court held that prosecution under section 179 is invalid because answering those questions would expose herself to potential risks. Now coming to section 161 of CRPC, while answering or giving statements under 161 of CRPC, if there is a potential danger to expose yourself to a crime, then you are not supposed to answer those claims. Now let us see certain sections of Evidence Act, that is section 25 and 26. As per section 25 and 26, a self-harming statement is inadmissible in law. But example, let us see an example. If a person says, I have committed theft, then that won't be admissible. But if a person says that I have committed theft and I have kept the articles in my car boot, then that can be admissible under Article 27. In state of Bombay versus Kathikalu Ogur, the Supreme Court has clearly stated that thumb impressions, handwriting samples, and any other such samples are not in a category to be a witness, and hence the same cannot be refused. Now let us see what are the general rights which an accused person involved. The first and very first right which an accused person has is he is innocent until proven guilty. The presumption that until and unless an accused has been convicted by the final court of law, he will enjoy the same privileges and rights which a normal citizen enjoys apart from personal liberty. Now I'll be reading the main rights which are available to an accused. The presumption of innocence has been read. Secondly, it is mandatory as per section 51 of 50(1) of CRPC that a person who's arrested I'm sorry, is entitled to know the full particulars of an offense for which he's being arrested, where he's arrested, whether he's arrested with a warrant, and he must be notified with all particulars of the warrant if needed as per the provisions of section 75 CRPC. Without informing the person a grounds for his detention or a grounds for his arrest, it would be termed as an illegal arrest. The accused has a right to bail. A person who's been arrested without a warrant and is accused of a bailable offense has to be informed by the police officer that he is entitled for bail on a payment of relief, on a payment of surety bond. In common words, we call this a stable bail. That bail is given in the Supreme Court. Then the accused has a right to be taken before the magistrate without any delay, irrespective of whatever is the offense. As per the provision section 75 and 76 of the code, the accused has to be produced before the magistrate within 24 hours of his arrest. If the police officer fails to do so, then certainly he commits something wrong. After producing before the magistrate, then only official permission, that is remand, can be taken for arrest. After that, there is a right to free, fair and speedy trial. Like it is said, justice delayed is justice denied. The accused has a right for speedy and expeditious trial, but at the same time, it is said that justice hurried is justice buried. Hence, the accused should be given a fair and speedy trial. Now, as per Article 22(1), the accused has a right to consult a legal practitioner. This has been enshrined as a fundamental right in the Constitution of India, which cannot be denied to any accused. Section 53 of the code, that is the code of the Criminal Procedure Code, states that a person against whom proceedings are initiated have a right to seek defense, and hence he can engage a legal practitioner. Now, in case where a person cannot engage In case where a person cannot engage a legal counsel, what happens? In case where a person cannot engage a legal counsel, the person in writing has to inform the legal aid authority, and the legal aid authority, as per the provisions, will provide him free legal aid. Legal aid is a free right which can be enjoyed by every accused. Also, before starting the trial, the court themselves ask the accused whether he needs legal aid, and then the court can order some. If the accused wishes to represent himself by own, that also he is allowed. Secondly, within 24 hours of his arrest, secondly, within 24 hours of his arrest, the accused has a right for medical examination. As per section 54 of the Criminal Procedure Code, it is the right of the accused to get him medically examined and inform all the details to this to the accused, to the doctor, and take the report to the court when it is taken. When the accused is produced before the magistrate, if at all a accused is facing any harassment at the hands of the police, the accused has to inform the same to the magistrate, and then the magistrate would initiate inquiry and not grant police custody and send the accused to the judicial custody. Thus, that means that no assault can be inflicted on the accused whilst he is in police custody or judicial custody. Secondly, the accused has a right to privacy and protection against unlawful searches. The police officials cannot violate the privacy of the accused on a mere presumption of offense. The property of an accused which they want to search have to be searched only with a warrant, that is, and warrant which is in their hands, and the warrant should be shown to the accused, and the reasons of the search should be informed to the accused. As per section 273 of the Criminal Procedure Code, the accused has a right to be present during the trial. No court can conduct a trial in the absence of the accused, or in case the accused cannot be present on a particular day, then his legal counsel, that is his defense counsel, should be present during the hearing. Accused has a right to appeal. In case an accused is aggrieved by a particular judgment or a particular order of the court, he has all the right to appeal to the higher court. Accused has a right to human treatment in prison. Thus, that means that he should be given proper food, clothing, water, sleeping place, bedding. If he requires books and facilities, whatever are essential in jail, which are as per the jail manual. We have seen on many occasions the court permit the accused home food if a fit case is made. Accused has a right to get medicines in the court. Now, section 207 of the CRPC says that the accused has a right to all the police report and police documents. Pausing here for a moment, many a times we all see that the accused persons are denied the FIR copy. They are not told in toto what are the allegations against them. What happens in them? The Honorable Supreme Court in Youth Bar Association has categorically stated that FIR is a public document and it is a right of the accused to know the same, and the same should be given to him. Furthermore, the Supreme Court has also directed all the states, that is the Director Generals of the state, if possible, to upload the FIRs on the website of the official police website of the state. Only FIRs which have names of minors or sexually assaulted victims cannot be uploaded on the website, but the FIR is a right of the accused. The accused can have the pro forma as well as statements. Many a times we see, as per the online copy, we get only pro forma. It is very essential to know the statement. Hence, a writing application is to be made to the senior inspector of the concerned police station, and the copy of the FIR is to be obtained. Please note, no charges are to be paid by the accused whilst obtaining the copy of the FIR. In case where the police deny to give the copy of the FIR, a written application has to be made before the concerned magistrate, and the magistrate may either order the police officer to supply the copy or supply the copy of the FIR which is in the personal record of the court. Okay. This is the first information report. The accused is entitled to the police report, that is the say. If any says are given in the court during a particular hearing, that is the remand copy, or say to an anticipatory bail application, say to a return of property application, say to a bail application, any say, the accused has a right. As a right, the statements that are recorded under subsection 3 of 16 or section 167 of the Criminal Procedure Code are a right of the accused, and accused can obtain them. The accused can obtain confessions made under section 164 of CRPC. Pausing here for a moment, I would like to state that making confession is also a right of the accused. If a particular accused wishes to make a confession, he has to inform the same to the police officer, and then the police officer shall take the appointment or time from the magistrate and produce the accused before the magistrate. While recording the confession, that is before starting of recording the confession, it is the duty of the magistrate to inform the accused of his rights and what could be the implications of this confession. If an accused on reaching the magistrate states that he does not want to give the confession, then he is not liable for any prosecution. Any document which is relevant and is forwarded to the magistrate by the police under subsection 5 of section 173, the aspect as per subsection 5 of 173 of the criminal, then the accused is entitled to those copy. As per section 208 of Criminal Procedure Code, when a case is not instituted by a police report, but when an offense is triable by a court of sessions, then all the statements are also supposed to be supplied to the accused. The statements that are recorded under section 200 and 202, or all persons that are examined by the magistrate, their statement copies should be given to the accused. The statements of any confessions, like I have said earlier, are supposed to be given to the accused person. All the documents on which the prosecution generally relies are supposed to be given to the accused. The accused, that is his fundamental right, and without having a document, the accused cannot be expected to defend himself. After the provisions relating to the documents, let us see what are the provisions if an accused feels he is wrongly implicated. If a accused is wrongly implicated, he has two options. Firstly, immediately after lodging of the FIR, he has to approach the court for an anticipatory bail, or if he is in custody, after being remanded to judicial custody, he should ask for bail. If at all the charge sheet is filed, he can approach for discharge as per section 227 of the CRPC, or if he doesn't want to discharge, he can go as per section 482 of the Criminal Procedure Code for quashing in the High Court, which he could ask for quashing or wait for. If an accused cannot wait for quashing of the entire, accused has to immediately after filing of the FIR go for filing of an FIR. The accused has also a right to present his evidence in the court. As per section 243(1) of the Criminal Procedure Code, the accused has a right to present his evidence. Many people do not know that it is a right of the accused to submit his 313 statement made by his own defense lawyer. The Honorable High Court of Manipur Impal has stated in Criminal Petition 21 of 2017 in Shri Langugopalakam Kiranjit Singh versus State of Manipur that presenting a 313 statement on his own is a right of the accused, and no court can deny the same to him. The accused can write his question and submit to the court, and also at the similar time answer the questions given by the court. Like I said, he has to be present when the evidence is taken. That is why we have seen many times in trials, the court asks the advocates of the accused that whether in the absence of your client can the evidence be taken, because though it is mandatory, sometimes physically it may not be possible for the accused person to attend. Hence, but preferably the evidence is taken only in the presence of the accused, and in his absence, in the presence of his legal representative. Now, as per section 302 and article 22(1) of the Indian Constitution, an accused has a right to be defended. In certain cases, the state has to give compulsory free legal aid to the accused where he is absolutely below the level where he cannot even afford even consultation to the lawyer. Section 304 of CRPC states that I'm reading it out. This right is not available to all the accused, but to certain category of accused as a privilege. So, where in a trial before the court of session, the accused is not presented by a pleader, and the court believes that he does not have sufficient means to engage a pleader, it shall assign a pleader for his defense at the expense of the state under section 304 of the CRPC. As per section 311 of the Criminal Procedure Code, accused has a right to cross-examine the prosecution witness. If an accused feels that a particular witness is stating something wrong, then he has his right to cross-examine the particular witness through his legal representative, or if he doesn't have a legal representative, then the accused can present his case on his own. That is normally known as the party in person. It's a provision on section 2. Accused applies to the magistrate issue any process for calling any witness for the purpose of examination or cross-examination or the production of any document or other thing. The magistrate shall issue process unless he consider that such application should be refused on the ground that it is made for the purpose of vexation or delay or for defeating ends of justice, and such ground shall be recorded by him in writing. Pausing here for a moment, a production of a document or calling as a person as a witness can be asked from a person only who is not in custody. A person who is accused cannot be given a notice under section 91 of CRPC for production of document, because that would be self-incriminating as per article 23 of the Indian Constitution. Section 138 of the Indian Evidence Act says that the right of cross-examination available to the opposite party is a distinct and an independent right. When the accused declines to cross-examine and the said witness is not available for cross-examination, the evidence of such witness recorded is admissible in evidence, but that will have to be true on the account. So when a particular witness is not cross-examined, or the accused or his legal counsel refuses to cross-examine, then that particular person's evidence will be admissible. Then as per section 316, the accused shall not be subjected to any influence by any means of promise or threat. For example, a threat is given to an accused that if you do not say this, we would book you under more crimes, or your family will be in danger. If a police officer is committing such acts or any kind of such these things, then that particular accused or person can complain to the magistrate, and as per DK Basu versus State of Bengal, the police officer can be booked. Accused has an equal right to liberty and life as normal citizens say. Article 21 gives us the right for liberty and life, and it provides that no accused shall be deprived of his life or liberty, personal liberty, except in accordance with procedure established law, which is just, fair and reasonable. This article also provides for free and speedy trial. We have seen that majority of article and provisions provide for a free and speedy trial because they say an innocent person should not languish in jail as possible. Now there are certain questions which always come to our mind, that is what an accused does, how can he protect himself, how should he avoid giving information, what he should do. Like we have said, an accused is not supposed to give information which could be self-incriminating or could expose him to a potential risk. whether what happens if second question, what happens if accused is not given documents? Like I have said, if accused is not given documents as per youth association, he is entitled for FIR, and other documents which are part of a court record are supposed to be supplied to the accused. Only the documents which are a form of a charge sheet cannot be given to the document prior to the accused prior to the filing of the charge sheet. Thus, it must be known that till the filing of the charge sheet, the case diary, which contains all the documents of the investigation, are only accessible to the court of law. An accused cannot claim is absolute privilege for an accused cannot claim his absolute privilege for those documents when investigation is in progress. There is a write-up which I have read about hiding of witnesses versus accused liberty. Now, there was a question which stated that many a times it is stated that where the victims are victims of a sexual assault or of minor, their names are being hidden, and at the time of giving the evidence in the court, they are called as per page numbers. Like it is said that today the witness who is present in the court is of page so and so. It in that write-up it is stated that this kind of act is ultra vires the fundamental rights of the accused, but Article 21 here causes a hindrance. Like since an accused should also not be deprived of his personal life and liberty. Similarly, at the time the witness cannot be deprived of his personal life and liberty. Witness protection is also important because many Supreme Court judgments say that witness protection should be run throughout the state to ensure that a trial goes foolproof. We have seen that many people, after giving statement before the police, do not come before the court of law to depose. Hence, it is very essential to have a witness protection program. Now, the third question which comes to mind is, every accused presumes himself to innocent, then why is he convicted? Conviction is not a procedure from merely filing an FIR and directly conviction. It should be noted that conviction is the end result of a trial. It takes hardcore effort from police officer, prosecuting agency, defense lawyers, witnesses, and everyone to convict and accuse. Hence, the concept of innocent until proven guilty is prevailing even today. An accused who is being subjected to TI parade has a right to tell the police officer to giving a change of clothes. And can an accused deny to stand for a TI parade? Is a no. An accused cannot deny to stand for a TI parade, and it should not be said no because putting himself in the box for TI parade would help himself to earn an acquittal. There are many other questions which are relating to accused, like why an accused cannot be handcuffed. It is because its personal liberty is at bar. When an accused is handcuffed, it should be seen, and when he is taken to the court, the entire society looks at him with a sense of ridicule, and hence this practice was being stopped by the Supreme Court in Prem Kumar Shukla. Like I have given the citation in Prem Kumar Shukla versus UP to stop the accused from ridiculing. So these, in short, are the rights of the